Good evening. Welcome to Maranatha Baptist University. We welcome you, especially guests, to our campus here tonight. My name is Mark Herbster. I'm the Director of Student Discipleship here at MBU, as well as the Dean of the Seminary and School of Bible. And we hope that you have a great time here tonight. A couple announcements before we start the presentation. First of all, silence your phones, okay? Can we do that? And make sure that there's no distractions for others that are here tonight. And then please, no flashes on photography here tonight. And we hope you enjoy the presentation. There will be an intermission, and the lights will flicker when the intermission is coming to a close. So at that point, run back to your seats or get back to your seats and enjoy the rest of the presentation. And let's have a word of prayer and pray that we have a great time tonight and enjoy ourselves in the wonderful talents that God has given. Let's bow our heads and pray. Lord, thank you so much that every good and perfect gift comes from you. Lord, tonight we will experience wonderful gifts that you've given to our students, to the directors, and those who are behind the scenes running this presentation. We also have the gift of laughter tonight, the gift of joy that you bring to our hearts. And Lord, help us to just enjoy ourselves and to know that even this presentation can bring glory to your name as a result of the joy and the excitement it brings to our hearts. Lord, we pray that you would bless the students, bless all those that are in the presentation tonight, that you would give them clarity of thought, help them to remember the things they've practiced. And Lord, just give us a great time here tonight as we enjoy this presentation. In Jesus' name, amen.
Sister Martha and I have been talking all week about your sermon last Sunday. It's really wonderful, Dr. Harper. In only 2 short years, you've taken on the spirit of Brooklyn.
That's very gratifying, Miss Brewster.
You see, living here next to the church all our lives, we've seen so many ministers come and go. The spirit of Brooklyn, we always say, is friendliness. And your sermons are not so much sermons as friendly talks.
Personally, I have enjoyed my talks with Cardinal Gibbons. Or have I met him yet?
No, dear, not yet. Are the biscuits good?
Bully.
Have another cup of tea, Dr. Harper?
No, thank you. I must admit, Miss Abby, that violence and unhappiness seem far removed from these surroundings.
It is peaceful here, isn't it?
Yes, peaceful. The gentle virtues of another day, they're all here in this house. Mm-hmm. The same virtues that went out with candlelight, good manners, and low taxes.
Oh, it's one of the oldest houses in Brooklyn. It's just as it was when Grandfather Brewster built and furnished it, except for the electricity, which Mortimer persuaded us to put in.
Oh, yes, I can understand that. Your nephew Mortimer seems to live for bright lights.
The poor boy has to work so late. I understand he's taking Elaine to the theater again tonight. Oh, Teddy, your brother Mortimer will be here a little later.
Delighted.
We're so happy it's Elaine Mortimer is taking to the theater with him.
Well, it is a new experience for me to wait up until 3 o'clock in the morning for my daughter to be brought home.
Oh, Dr. Harper, I hope you don't disapprove of Mortimer.
Well,
We'd feel so guilty if you did. Sister Martha and I mean, since it was here in our home that your daughter met Mortimer.
Of course, Miss Abby, of course. And so I'll say immediately that I do believe Mortimer himself to be quite a worthy gentleman. But I must also admit that I have been watching the growing relationship between him and my daughter with some trepidation.
Oh, you mean his acid stomach. He's bothered with it so. Poor boy.
Not his acid stomach, Miss Abby. I'm speaking of your nephew's unfortunate connection with the theater.
The theater? Oh, no, Dr. Harper. Mortimer writes for a New York newspaper.
I know, Miss Abby, but a dramatic critic is constantly exposed to the theater. And I don't doubt but that some do develop an interest in it.
Well, not Mortimer. You need have no fear at all. Why, Mortimer hates the theater.
Really?
Oh, yes. He writes awful things about the theater. But you can't blame him. Poor boy. He was so happy writing about real estate, which he really knew something about, and then they just made him take this terrible night position.
My.
But as he says, the theater can't last much longer. And in the meantime, it's a living. I think if we give the theater another year or two, oh, now who do you suppose that is? Never mind, Teddy. I'll go. Come right in, Mr. Brophy.
Hello, Miss Brewster.
How are you, Mr. Clyde?
Very well, Miss Brewster.
Gentlemen, what news have you brought me?
Colonel, we have nothing to report.
Splendid. Thank you, gentlemen. At ease.
Oh, and you know Dr. Harper.
Oh, sure. Hello, Dr. Harper.
We've come for the toys for the Christmas fund.
Oh, yes.
That's a splendid work you gentlemen do, fixing up discarded toys to give poor children a happier Christmas.
Oh, it gives us something to do when we have to sit around at the station. You get tired of playing cards, and then you start cleaning your gun, and the first thing you know, you've shot yourself in the foot.
Teddy, why don't you go upstairs and get that box from your Aunt Martha's room? How is Mrs. Brophy today? Mrs. Brophy has been quite ill, Dr. Harper.
Pneumonia.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Charge!
Well, she's doing better now. A little weak still.
I'm going to get you some beef broth to take to her.
Oh, don't bother, Miss Abby. You've done so much for her already.
Oh, we made some this morning. Sister Martha's taking some to poor Mr. Benitsky right now. I won't be a minute. Sit down and be comfortable, all of you.
She shouldn't go to all that trouble.
Oh, try to stop her or her sister from doing something nice, and for nothing. They don't even care how you vote.
When I first moved here, my wife, she wasn't well. And when she died, and for a few months before, well, if I know what pure kindness and absolute generosity are, it's because I have known the Brewster sisters.
Colonel, you promised not to do that.
But I have to call a cabinet meeting to get the release of those supplies.
He used to do that in the middle of the night. The neighbors raised Cain with us. You know, they're a little afraid of him anyway.
Oh, he's quite harmless.
Suppose he does think he's Theodore Roosevelt. I mean, there are a lot of worse people he could think he was.
Such a shame. A nice family like this, hatching a cuckoo.
Well, I heard that Teddy's father, the old girl's brother, was some sort of a genius, wasn't he? And their father, Teddy's grandfather, I heard that he was a little crazy too.
Yeah, crazy like a fox. He made $1 million.
Really? Here in Brooklyn?
Oh, yeah. Patent medicine. He was kind of a quack of some sort. Old Sergeant Edwards remembers him. He used the house here as sort of a clinic. You know, tried him out on people.
Yeah, I heard he would make mistakes occasionally too.
The department never really bothered him with it much, though, because he was pretty useful on autopsies, especially poison cases.
Well, whatever he did, he left his daughters fixed for life.
Not that they'd ever spend any of it on themselves.
Yes, I'm well acquainted with their charities.
Oh, you don't know the 10th of it. You see, when I was with Missing Persons, we were trying to get a trace on this old gentleman that we never did find, but did you know there's a renting agency that has this house down on its list for furnished rooms? They don't rent any rooms, but you can bet that anybody coming here looking for a room goes away with a good meal and probably a few dollars in his pocket.
It's just their way of digging people up to do some good to.
Well, isn't this nice?
Good afternoon, Miss Brewster.
Oh, how do you do, Mr. Brophy?
Good afternoon, Miss Brewster.
Oh, how do you do, Dr. Harper, Mr. Klein?
Hello, Miss Brewster. We dropped in to get the Christmas toys.
Oh, yes, Teddy's Army and Navy. They do wear out. They're all packed.
The colonel's upstairs after him now. It seems the cabinet has to okay it first.
Yes, of course. Oh, I hope Mrs. Brophy's better.
Oh, she's doing fine, ma'am. Your sister's getting some soup for me to take to her.
Oh, yes, we made some this morning. I just took some to a poor old man who broke ever so many bones.
Oh, Martha, you're back. How was Mr. Vinitsky?
It's pretty serious, I'm afraid. The doctor was there. He's going to amputate in the morning.
Can we be present?
No. Oh, I asked him, but he says it's against the rules of the hospital.
You couldn't be of much service. And besides, you must spare yourself some things.
Here's the broth, Mr. Brophy.
Oh, thank you, Miss Brewster.
Be sure it's good and hot.
Oh, these will do fine. It'll make a lot of kids happy. That O'Malley boy is nuts about soldiers.
That's General Miles. I've retired him. What's this? The Oregon?
And now put it back, dear.
But the Oregon goes to the Philippines.
Now, Teddy.
I'm sorry. I've given my word to fighting Bob Evans.
Oh, but Teddy.
Oh, what's it matter what kid gets it? Bobby Evans, Izzy Cohen? We'll run along, miss. And thank you very much.
Not at all. Goodbye. Goodbye.
I really should be getting home.
Oh, before you go, Doctor.
Charge! Charge the blockhouse!
The blockhouse?
The stairs are always San Juan Hill.
Have you ever tried to persuade him that he isn't Teddy Roosevelt?
Oh, no.
Why, he's so happy being Teddy Roosevelt.
And we'd so much rather he be Mr. Roosevelt than nobody.
Well, if he's happy, and what's more important, that you're happy.
Oh.
You will see that he signs these.
What are they?
Dr. Harper has made all the arrangements for Teddy to go to Happy Dale Sanitarium after we pass on.
Oh, but why should Teddy sign any papers now?
Well, it's better to have it all settled. If the Lord were to take you away suddenly, perhaps we couldn't persuade Teddy to commit himself. And that would mean an unpleasant legal procedure. But Mr. Witherspoon understands they're to be filed away until they're needed again.
And Mr. Witherspoon? Who's he?
He's the superintendent of Happy Dale.
Dr. Harper has arranged for him to drop in tomorrow or the next day to meet Teddy.
I really should be going, or Elaine will be over here looking for me.
Give Elaine our love. And please don't think too harshly of Mortimer for being a dramatic critic. Somebody has to do those things.
Did you just have tea?
Yes, and dinner's going to be late too.
Oh? Why?
Teddy, good news for you. You're going down to Panama to dig another lock for the canal.
Delighted! Bully! Bully, bully! I shall prepare at once for the journey. Charge!
Oh, Abby, while I was out? Oh, yes, dear. I didn't know when you'd be back and Dr. Harper was coming.
Oh, but all by yourself.
Oh, I got along fine.
Well, I'll go right downstairs and see.
Oh, no. There wasn't enough time. I was all alone. Well, Martha, you just look and see what's in that window seat. Oh. It's Elaine. Come in, dear.
Good afternoon, Miss Abby. Good afternoon, Miss Martha. Is Father still here?
Oh, he just this minute left. Didn't you meet him?
Oh, no, I took a shortcut through the cemetery. Is Mortimer here yet?
Oh, no, dear.
Oh, he asked me to meet him here. Do you mind if I wait?
Oh, not at all.
Oh, why don't you sit down?
Thank you.
But we really should speak to Mortimer about doing this to you.
Doing what?
He was brought up to know better. When a gentleman is taking a lady out, he should call for her at her house.
Oh, but there's something about calling for a girl at a parsonage that discourages any man who doesn't embroider.
He's done this far too often, dear. We're going to speak to him.
Oh, don't bother. After young men whose idea of nightlife was to take me to prayer meeting, it really is quite wonderful to go to the theater every night of my life.
Well, it's comforting for us, too. Because if Mortimer has to see some of those plays that he has to see, well, at least he's sitting next to a minister's daughter.
Oh, Elaine, what you must think of us not having tea cleared away by this time.
Now, don't worry about anything in the kitchen until Mortimer gets back. Then I'll help you. Oh, he should be here any minute now.
Well, Father must have been surprised not to find me here. I'll just run home and say goodnight to him.
And I'm sorry you missed him.
Well, if Mortimer comes back, you tell him I'll be right back. Oh, hello, Mort.
Oh, hello, Elaine. Hello, Aunt Martha.
Hello, dear.
Oh, what a strong boy. Oh, Abby! Mortimer's here.
Were you going somewhere?
I was just running home to tell Father not to wait up for me.
I didn't know that was still being done, even in Brooklyn.
Oh, hello, Mortimer.
Hello, Aunt Abby.
Oh, how are you, dear?
All right, and you look well. You haven't changed much since yesterday.
Oh, it was yesterday, wasn't it? We're seeing a great deal of you lately. Oh, sit down, sit down.
Oh, Abby, haven't we something to do in the kitchen? Oh, you know, the tea thing.
Oh, yes, yes. You two just make yourselves at home. Just
Make yourselves at home.
Well, can't you take a hint?
No, that was pretty obvious. A lack of inventiveness, I should say.
Yes, that's exactly what you'd say.
Where do you want to go for dinner?
I don't care. I'm not very hungry.
Well, I just ate. Suppose we wait until after the show?
But that'll make it pretty late, won't it?
Not with the little stinker we're seeing tonight. From what I've heard about it, we'll be at Polly's by 10 o'clock.
You ought to be fair to these plays.
Are these plays fair to me?
Well, I've never seen you walk out on a musical.
That musical isn't opening tonight.
No.
No, darling, you'll have to learn the rules. With a musical, there are always 4 changes of titles and at least 3 postponements. They liked it in New Haven, but it needs a lot of work.
Oh, I was hoping it was a musical. After a serious play, we joined the proletariat in the subway and I listened to a lecture on the drama. After a musical, you take me home in a taxi.
Now listen, darling, that's a very inaccurate piece of reporting.
Oh, I must admit that after the Bearman play, you told me you greatly admired me. What a thing to say to any girl. It wasn't until after our first musical that you told me I had authentic beauty.
And I've never been able to rationalize it.
What?
My falling in love with a girl who lives in Brooklyn.
Falling in love? You're not stooping to the articulate, are you?
No, I've come to the conclusion that you're holding out for the legalities.
And I suppose I can hold out for a few more years.
And I can't wait that long. Where could we be married in a hurry? Say tonight.
But I'm afraid Father will insist on officiating.
Undoubtedly. I'll bet your father could make even the marriage service sound pedestrian.
Well, nonetheless.
All right. Everything formal and legal, but no later than next month.
Oh, darling. I'll talk it over with Father and we'll set the date.
Why, hello, Mortimer.
How are you, Mr. President?
Bully, just bully. What news have you brought me?
Just this, Mr. President. The country is squarely behind you.
Yes, I know. Isn't it wonderful? Well, goodbye. Goodbye.
Where are you off to, Teddy?
Off to Panama.
Panama's the cellar. He goes down there and digs locks for the canal.
Oh, you're very sweet to him, and he's very fond of you.
Well, Teddy was always my favorite brother.
Favorite? Were there more of you?
Yes. There's another brother, Jonathan.
Jonathan? Your aunts never mentioned him.
We don't like to talk about Jonathan. You see, he left Brooklyn very early, by request.
Oh.
Jonathan was the kind of boy who liked to cut worms in two with his teeth.
Well, what became of him?
Oh, I don't know. He wanted to become a surgeon, like grandfather, but he wouldn't go to medical school. Anyways, his practice got him into trouble.
Oh, aren't you going to be late for the theater?
No, we're skipping dinner. We don't have to be off for half an hour.
Then I'll just leave you two alone again.
Don't bother. I should run home and say goodnight to Father. Before I go out with you, he likes to pray over me a little.
The fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much.
I'll be right back. I'll cut through the cemetery.
Oh, Mortimer, that's the first time I ever heard you quote the Bible. We knew Elaine would be such a good influence on you.
By the way, I'm going to marry her.
Oh, Mortimer! Oh, Martha, you come right in here. I've got great news. Mortimer and Elaine are going to be married. Oh, married! Oh, we hoped it would happen just this way.
Elaine must be the happiest girl in the world.
Happy? Just look at her leaping over those gravestones. By the way, I left a large envelope around here last week. It's one of the chapters of my book on Thoreau. Have you seen it?
Well, if you left it here, it must be here somewhere.
Mortimer, when are you going to be married? What are your plans? There must be something more you can tell us about Elaine.
Elaine? Mm-hmm. Oh, yes. Elaine thought it was brilliant.
What, Mortimer?
My chapter on Thoreau?
Well, when Elaine comes back, I think we ought to have a little celebration. Martha, isn't there some of that Lady Baltimore cake left?
Oh, yes.
Oh, good.
And to think it happened in this room.
Now, where could I have put that?
Well, Mortimer, with your fiancé sitting beside you tonight, I hope the play is something you can enjoy for once. Maybe something romantic. What's the title?
Murder Will Out.
Oh, dear.
When the curtain goes up, the first thing you'll see is a dead body. Aunt Tabby!
Yes, dear?
You were gonna make plans for Teddy to go to that sanitarium? Happydale?
Oh, yes, dear. Dr. Harper brought by the things for Ted to decide. Oh. Here they are.
He's got to sign them right away.
Oh, yes. That's what Dr. Harper thinks. That way there won't be any legal difficulties after we pass on.
He's got to sign them this minute. He's down in the cellar. Get him up here right away.
There's no such hurry as that.
When Teddy starts working on the canal, you can't get his mind on anything else.
Oh, Teddy's got to go to Happydale now. Tonight.
Oh, no, Mortimer. That's not until after we are gone.
Oh, right away, I tell you. Right away.
Mortimer, how could you say such a thing? Why, as long as we live, we won't be separated from Teddy.
Now listen, darlings, I'm frightfully sorry, but I've got some shocking news for you. Now we've all got to try to keep our heads. You know, we've sort of humored Teddy because, well, we thought he was harmless.
Why, he is harmless.
He was harmless. That's why he's got to go to Happydale. Why he has to be confined.
Mortimer, why have you suddenly turned against Teddy, your own brother?
Well, you've got to know sometime. Might as well be now. Teddy's killed a man.
Nonsense, dear.
There's a body in the window seat.
Yes, dear, we know.
You know?
Why, yes, but it has nothing to do with Teddy.
Now, Mortimer, you just forget about it. Forget you ever saw the gentleman.
Forget?
We never dreamed you'd peek.
But who is he?
His name's Hoskins. Adam Hoskins. That's really all I know. Except that he's a Methodist.
Well, what's he doing here? What happened to him?
He died.
Aunt Martha, men don't just climb into window seats and die.
No, he died first.
But how?
Mortimer, don't be so inquisitive. The gentleman died because he drank some tea with poison in it.
How did the poison get in the tea?
We put it in tea because it's less noticeable.
You put it in the tea!
Yes, and I put Mr. Hoskins in the window seat because Dr. Harper was coming.
So you knew what you'd done, and you didn't want Dr. Harper to see the body.
Well, that wouldn't have been very nice. Now, Mortimer, you know about it, and you can forget about it. I do think Martha and I have the right to our own little secrets.
And don't you tell Elaine. Oh, Abby, while I was out, I dropped in on Mrs. Schultz. She's doing much better, but she would like to have us take Junior to the movies again.
We must do that tomorrow or the next day.
Well, this time we'll go where we want to go. Junior's not going to drag me into another one of those scary pictures again.
They shouldn't be allowed to make pictures just to frighten people.
No.
Hello? Hello, Al. Do you know who this is? That's right. See, Al, when I left the office, I told you where I was going, remember? Well, where did I say? That's right. And it'd take me about half an hour to get to Brooklyn. What time have you got? That's right. I must be here. And Tabby and Martha! What are we going to do? What are we gonna do?
What are we going to do about what, dear?
There's a body in there!
Yes, dear, Mr. Hoskins.
Good heavens. I can't turn you over to the police, but what am I gonna do?
Well, for one thing, stop being so excited.
And for pity's sake, stop worrying. We told you to forget about it.
Forget about it? My dear Aunt Abby, can't I make you realize that something has to be done?
Mortimer, you behave yourself. You're far too old to be flying off the handle like this.
But Mr. Hotchkiss,
Hoskins, dear.
well, whatever his name is, you can't just leave him there.
We don't intend to, dear.
Teddy's down in the cellar digging another lock.
You mean you're going to bury Mr. Hotchkiss in the cellar?
But of course. Well, that's what we did with the others.
And Martha, you can't just... Others?
The other gentleman.
When you say others, do you mean others? More than one others?
Why, yes. Oh, let's see, this is 11, isn't it, Abby?
No, dear, this makes it 12.
Oh, I think you're wrong, Abby. This is only 11.
No. When Mr. Hoskins first came in, it occurred to me that he would make around a dozen.
Well, I really don't think you should count the first one.
But I was counting the first one, which makes it 12.
Well, you
Dear...
Hello? Oh. Hello. Hello, Al. My, it's good to hear your voice.
But he is in the cellar, dear.
Shh! Look, Al, I'm glad you called. I can't cover the play tonight. You've got to get a hold of George right away. No? You're wrong, Al. I can't make it. I'll tell you about it tomorrow. No? Well, George has got to review the play tonight. This is my department, and I'm running it. You get a hold of George. Now, let's see. Where were we? 12!
Yes. Abby thinks we should count the first one. And that makes 12.
Now, let me get this. Who was the first one?
Oh, Mr. Midgley. He was a Baptist.
Although I still think we can't take full credit for him because, well, he just died.
Oh, Martha means without any help from us. You see, Mr. Midgley came here looking for a room.
It was right after you moved to New York.
And it didn't seem right that your nice room should go to waste when there were so many people who needed it.
And he was such a lonely old man.
All his kith and kin were dead, and it left him so forlorn and unhappy.
And then, when his heart attack came, oh, and he sat dead in that chair, so peaceful, remember, Abby?
Yes, dear, I do.
Well, we decided then and there that if we could help other lonely old men find that peace, we would.
That man fell dead right in that chair. Oh, how awful that must have been for you.
Oh, not at all. It was rather like old times. A grandfather used to keep, a cadaver or two around the house. You see, Teddy had been digging in Panama, and he thought Mr. Midgley was a yellow fever victim.
Which meant he had to be buried immediately.
So we went right down to Panama and put him in the lock. You see, that's why we told you not to bother about it, dear. We know exactly what's to be done.
So that's how all this started? That man just walking in here and falling dead?
Well, we realized we couldn't depend on that happening again.
Remember those jars of poison that were left on the shelves in Grandfather's laboratory all these years?
Yes.
And you know the knack your Aunt Martha has for mixing things. You've eaten enough of her piccalilli.
Well, Mortimer, for a gallon of elderberry tea, I put a teaspoonful of arsenic, a half teaspoonful of strychnine, and just a pinch of cyanide.
Should have quite a kick.
Yes, in fact, one of our gentlemen even found the time to say, "How delicious!"
Well, I better get things started in the kitchen.
I wish you could stay to dinner, dear.
I'm making a new recipe.
I couldn't eat a thing.
Well, I'll go help Martha in the kitchen. I do feel better now that you understand, Mortimer. You have to wait for Elaine, don't you? How happy you must be. I'll leave you alone with your thoughts.
I'm sorry I took so long, dear.
Ah!
Oh, don't be cross, darling. Father saw I was excited, so I told him about us, and well, it made it hard to get away.
Elaine, you run along home now, and I'll call you up tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
You know I always call you up every day or two.
Oh, but we're going to dinner in a theater tonight.
No, we're not.
Well, why not?
Elaine, something's come up.
Oh, what, darling? Mortimer, have you lost your job?
No, I haven't lost my job. I'm just not covering the play tonight.
Oh, but,
Now you run along home.
oh, but I've got to know what's happened. Certainly you can tell me.
No, I can't, dear.
Oh, but if we're going to be married...
Married?
Have you forgotten that 15 minutes ago you proposed to me?
I did. Oh, yes, I did. Well, as far as I know, that is still on. But I've got to do something now, so you run along home, Elaine.
Well, listen, mister. You can't propose to me one minute and then throw me out of the house the next.
I'm not throwing you out of the house. Now, will you please get out of here?
No, not until I've had some kind of explanation.
Elaine. Hello? Oh, hello, Al. Hold on just a minute, will you? All right, it's important. I know, but it can wait a minute, can't it? Hold. Elaine, you're a sweet girl and I love you. But I've got something on my mind now and I need you to go home and wait until I call you.
Don't try to be masterful.
When we're married and I have problems to face, I hope I can find you less tedious and uninspired.
And when we're married, if we're married, I hope I find you adequate.
Elaine! Elaine, I didn't mean it. Al! Hello? Al?
Oh, it's the doorbell ringing. Ooh. Oh, how do you do? Come in.
I understand you have a room to rent.
Oh, yes. Won't you step in?
Are you the lady of the house?
Yes, I'm Miss Brewster, and this is my sister. Another Miss Brewster.
My name is Gibbs.
Won't you sit down? I'm sorry. We were just setting the table for dinner.
Hello? Get me a hold of Al again. City desk? Al. City desk. What? I'm sorry. Oh, wrong number.
May I see the room?
Well, why don't you sit down and let's get acquainted?
That won't do much good if I don't like the room.
Is Brooklyn your home?
Haven't got a home. Live in a hotel. Don't like it.
Hello? City desk?
Are your family Brooklyn people?
Haven't got any family.
All alone in the world? Why, Martha? Well, you've come to just the right place. Please do sit down.
Hello, Al. Morse. We got cut off. Look, I can't review the play tonight. That's all there is to it. I can't.
What church do you go to? There's an Episcopal church practically next door.
I'm Presbyterian. Well, used to be.
What's George doing in Bermuda? Oh, well, certainly I told him he can go to Bermuda. Well, it's my department, isn't it? Well, look, George, you've got to get a hold of somebody. Who else is there around the office?
Is there always this much noise?
Oh, he doesn't live with us, dear.
Well, there's got to be someone around the place. What about the office boy? You know, the bright one? The one we don't like. All right. You look around the office, I'll hold.
I'd really like to see the room.
Oh, it's upstairs. Won't you try a glass of our tea before we start up?
Never touch it.
We make it ourselves. It's elderberry tea.
Elderberry? I haven't had elderberry since I was a boy. Thank you.
Well, there's got to be some printers around. Look, Al, the fellow who sets my copy. He ought to know what I'd write. His name is Joe. He's the third machine from the left.
Do you have your own elderberry bushes?
No, but the cemetery is full of them.
Don't you argue with me. Just do it.
Mortimer!
Oh, Mortimer, not that.
Get out of here! Do you want to be killed? Do you want to be murdered? Do you want to be poisoned?
Well, now you've spoiled everything.
You can't do things like that! I don't know how I can explain this to you, but it's not only against the law, it's wrong! It's not a nice thing to do. People wouldn't understand. He wouldn't understand!
No, Abby! We should never have told Mortimer!
Look, what I mean is, this has developed into a very bad habit.
Mortimer, we don't keep you from doing the things you like to do. I don't see why you should interfere with us.
And hello? Oh, hello, Al. All right, I'll see the first act and then write the review. But Al, you've got to do something for me. Get a hold of O'Brien, our lawyer, the head of our legal department. Have him meet me at the theater. Now, don't let me down, okay? I'm starting now. Look, Aunties, I've got to go to the theater. I can't get out of it. But before I go, will you promise me something?
Well, we'd have to know what it was first.
You know I love you, and you love me. You know I'd do anything in this world for you, and I need you to do just this one little thing for me.
What do you want us to do?
Don't do anything. Don't do anything. Don't let anybody in this house, and leave Mr. Hoskins right where he is.
Well, why?
I need time to think, and I've quite a little to think about. You know I wouldn't want anything to happen to you.
What on earth could happen to us?
Anyways, you'll do that for me, won't you?
Well, we were planning to hold services before dinner.
Services?
You don't think we'd bury Mr. Hoskins without a full Methodist service? He was a Methodist. Oh, yes, dear.
Can't that wait until I get back?
Yes, then you could join us.
Yes.
Oh, Mortimer, you really enjoy the services, especially the hymns. Martha, do you remember how beautifully Mortimer sang in the choir before his voice changed?
So you won't let anyone in the house while I'm gone? It's a promise.
Well, Martha, I think we can do this now that Mortimer is cooperating with us. All right, Mortimer.
Have you got any paper? I'll be back as soon as I can. There's a man I've got to see.
Here's some stationery. Will this do?
Yes, that'll work fine.
Oh, good.
I can save some time if I write my review on the way to the theater.
Mortimer, didn't seem quite himself today.
Well, that's only natural. I think I know why.
Oh? Why?
Well, he's just become engaged to be married. I suppose that would make any man nervous.
Well, I'm so happy for Elaine. Their honeymoon ought to give Mortimer a real vacation. Oh, Abby, if Mortimer's going to come to the services, we'll need another hymnal. There's one in my room.
It's really my turn to read the services, but since you were out when Mr. Hoskins came, I want you to do it.
Oh, that's very nice of you, dear. Are you sure you want me to?
Oh, it's only fair.
Well, I think I'll wear Mother's old brooch.
Oh, I'll get it, dear.
Oh, but we promised Mortimer we wouldn't let anyone in.
Well, who do you suppose it is?
Wait a minute. I'll look. Well, there's two men, and I've never seen them before.
Are you sure?
There's a car at the curb. They must have come in that.
Let me look.
Do you recognize them?
They're strangers to me.
Well, we'll just have to pretend we are not home.
Come in, Doctor. This is the home of my youth. As a boy, I couldn't wait to escape from this house. But now, I'm glad to escape back into it.
Yeah, Johnny, it's a good hideout.
It seems the family still lives here. There's something so unmistakably Brewster about the Brewsters. I hope there's a fatted calf awaiting the return of the prodigal.
Yeah, Johnny, I'm hungry. Look, Johnny.
As if we were expected. A good omen.
Who are you? What are you doing here?
Aunt Tabby. Aunt Martha. It's Jonathan.
You get out of here!
But I'm Jonathan. Your nephew. Jonathan.
No, you're nothing like Jonathan, so don't pretend you are. You just get out of here.
But I am Jonathan. And this is Dr. Einstein.
And he's not Dr. Einstein either.
Not Dr. Albert Einstein. Dr. Herman Einstein.
Who are you? You're not our nephew, Jonathan.
I see you're still wearing the lovely garnet ring Grandma Brewster bought in England. And you, Aunt Martha, still the high collar, tied the scar from where grandfather's acid burned you.
His voice is like Jonathan's.
Have you been in an accident?
No. My face. Dr. Einstein is responsible for that. He's a plastic surgeon. He changes people's faces.
Oh, but I've seen that face before. Abby, do you remember when we took that Schultz boy to the movies? And I was so frightened. It was that face!
Easy, Johnny. Don't worry. The last 5 years, I give Johnny 3 new faces. I give him another one right away.
Oh.
That last face. I saw that picture too. Right before I operate.
You see, Doctor, what you've done to me, even my own family.
You're home, Johnny, in this lovely house. How many times he tells me about Brooklyn, about this lovely house, about his 2 aunts that he loves so much. Oh, they know it's you, Johnny. Oh, you know it's Jonathan. Speak to him. Tell him so.
What have you been doing all these years, Jonathan?
Oh, yes. Where have you been?
England, South Africa, Australia, the last 5 years, Chicago. Dr. Einstein and I have been in business together there.
We were in Chicago for the World's Fair.
Oh, yes. We found it awfully warm.
Yeah, it got hot for us too.
It's so wonderful to be in Brooklyn again. And you, Aunt Tabby, Aunt Martha, you don't look a day older. You're exactly as I remember you. Sweet, charming, hospitable. And dear Teddy, did he go into politics? My little brother, Doctor, was determined to become president.
Teddy's fine, just fine. And Mortimer's doing well, too.
Yes, I've heard about Mortimer. I've seen his picture at the top of the column in the paper. He's evidently fulfilled all the promises of his early nasty nature.
Oh, we're very fond of Mortimer. Well, Jonathan, it was nice to have seen you again.
Bless you, Aunt Martha. It's so good to be home again.
Martha, we mustn't let what's on the stove boil over.
If you'll excuse us for just a moment, Jonathan, unless you're in a hurry to go somewhere. Well, good. Bye.
Well, Johnny, where do we go from here? We got to think fast. The police, they got pictures of that face. I got to operate on you right away. We got to find some place quick. Oh, and we got to find some place for Mr. Donati, too.
Don't waste any worry on that rat.
Oh, but Johnny, we got a hot stiff on our hands.
Forget Mr. Donati.
But we can't leave a dead body in the rumble seat. You shouldn't have killed him, Johnny. He's a nice fellow. He gives us a lift, and what happens?
He said I look like Boris Karloff. That's your work, Doctor. You did this to me.
No, Johnny. We find a place somewhere. I fix you up quick.
Tonight.
Oh, but Johnny, I got to eat first. I'm hungry. I'm weak.
Well, Jonathan, we're glad that you remembered us and took the trouble to say hello, but you were never happy in this house, and we were never happy while you were here. So, we've just come to say goodbye.
Aunt Tabby, I can't say your feeling towards me comes as a surprise. I've spent a great many hours regretting the many heartaches I must have caused you as a boy.
You were quite a trial to us, Jonathan.
But my biggest regret is for Dr. Einstein. I promised him that no matter how rushed we were when we came back through Brooklyn, we would take the time to stop here, home, for one of Aunt Martha's home-cooked dinners.
Oh? I'm afraid there wouldn't be enough.
Oh, Abby, it's a good-sized pot roast.
A pot roast?
But I think the least that we can do
Oh, bless you, Aunt Martha. We'll stay to dinner.
Well, we'll hurry it along.
Oh, yes.
Jonathan, if you want to freshen up, you can use the washroom in Grandfather's laboratory.
Is that still there?
Yes, just as he left it. Well, I'll go help Martha in the kitchen, since we're all in such a hurry.
Well, we get the meal anyway.
Grandfather's laboratory. Doctor. And just as he left it, a perfect operating room, Doctor.
Too bad we can't use it.
Doctor, when you finish with me, we could make a fortune. The laboratory, that large ward in the attic, 10 beds, Doctor. In Brooklyn, it's crying for your talent.
Why work yourself up, Johnny?
You don't understand the town like I do, Doctor. Practically everybody in Brooklyn needs a new face.
Oh, but so many of the old faces are locked up.
A very small percentage. And the boys in Brooklyn are famous for paying generously to stay out of jail.
Now, Johnny, take it easy. Your aunts, they don't seem to want us here.
We're here for dinner, aren't we?
Yeah, but after dinner?
Leave that to me, Doctor. This house will be our headquarters for years.
That would be beautiful, Johnny. This nice, quiet house. Those two aunts of yours, what sweet ladies. I love them already. I get the bags from the car, yeah?
Wait, Doctor. We must wait till we're invited.
But you just said that.
We'll be invited.
And if they say no?
Doctor, two helpless old women?
It's like comes true a beautiful dream, Johnny. No, only I hope you're not dreaming. This nice, quiet house. Oh. it's so peaceful.
Yes, Doctor. That's what makes this house so perfect for us. It's so peaceful.
Charge!
Yes, those last 5 years in Chicago were some of the happiest and busiest of my life.
And from Chicago, we go to South Bend, Indiana.
They wouldn't care to hear about our experience in Indiana.
You've led a very interesting life, I'm sure, but we shouldn't have allowed you to talk so late.
My meeting Dr. Einstein in London, you might say, changed my whole life. Remember, I'd been in South Africa, the diamond business, then Amsterdam, the diamond market. But I'd always hoped to return to South Africa, and Dr. Einstein made that possible for me.
A good job too, Johnny. When I was finished with the surgery, he looked so different, the nurse had to introduce me.
I loved that face. I still carry a picture of it with me.
That looks more the way you used to look, but still I wouldn't know you.
I think we'll go back to this face, Doctor.
Yeah, it's safe now.
Well, I'm sure you want to get to where you're going. Oh, yes.
My dear aunts, we're so full of the delicious dinner you served us. We simply cannot move a muscle. Oh.
Yeah, it's nice here.
Well, after all, it's getting very late.
I found it! I found it!
What did you find, Teddy?
The story of my life. My biography. Here's the picture I was telling you about, General. General Goethals and President Roosevelt at Culebra Cut. That's me, General, and that's you.
My, how I've changed.
Well, you see, this picture hasn't been taken yet. We haven't even begun work on Culebra Cut. We're still digging the locks. And now, General, you will accompany me to Panama and inspect the new lock for the canal.
No, Teddy, not to Panama.
Yeah, we go some other time. Panama's a long way off, yeah?
Nonsense! It's just down there in the cellar.
The cellar?
We let him dig the Panama Canal in the cellar.
General Goethals, as President of the United States, Commander-in-Chief of the Army and Navy, and the man who gave you this job, I command that you accompany me to inspect the new lock for the canal.
Teddy, I think it's time you go to bed.
I beg your pardon? Who are you?
I'm Woodrow Wilson. Go to bed.
No, you're not Wilson. But your face is familiar. Let me think. Let me see. No, you're not anyone I know now. Perhaps later, on my hunting trip to Africa. Yes, you look like someone I might meet in the jungle.
It's your brother Jonathan, dear.
He's had his face changed.
So that's it. A nature faker.
Perhaps you had better go to bed, Teddy. He and his friend have to get back to their hotel.
General Goethals, inspect the canal.
All right, Mr. President, we go to Panama.
Bole! Follow me, General. It's down south, you know.
Bon voyage.
My dear aunts, I'm afraid I must correct your misapprehension. You spoke of our hotel. We have no hotel. We came directly here.
Well, there's a very nice little hotel just 3 blocks down the street.
Aunt Martha, this is my home.
But Jonathan, you can't stay here. We need our rooms.
You need your rooms?
Yes, for our lodgers.
There are lodgers in this house?
Well, not just now, but we plan to have some.
Then my room is still free.
But there's no place for Dr. Einstein.
He'll share the room with me.
No, Jonathan, I'm afraid you can't stay here.
Dr. Einstein and I need a place to sleep. You remembered earlier this afternoon about how disagreeable I could be as a boy. It would not be pleasant for any of us if...
Perhaps we should let them stay here tonight.
Well, just overnight, Jonathan.
It's settled then. We'll get our rooms ready immediately.
Oh, they only need airing out.
Yes, we keep them ready to show our lodgers. I think you and Dr. Einstein will find them very comfortable.
You have a very distinguished guest in Dr. Einstein. I'm afraid you don't yet appreciate his skill, but you shall. In just a few short weeks, you'll see me look like a very different Jonathan.
Oh, but he can't operate here.
When we resume practice, I forgot to tell you, Dr. Einstein and I are turning grandfather's laboratory into an operating room.
No, Jonathan, we are not going to let you turn this house into a hospital.
A hospital? Heavens, no! This house will be a beauty parlor.
Hey, Johnny, come quick. Down in the cellar.
Doctor, my aunts have invited us to live with them.
Oh, you fixed it?
You are sleeping here tonight.
If you'll get our rooms ready immediately.
Well,
just for tonight.
Hey, Johnny, when I was down in the cellar, what do you think I find?
What?
The Panama Canal.
The Panama Canal?
The whole teddy dug. It just fits Mr. Donati. 6 feet long and 4 feet wide.
Down there?
You think they knew we were bringing Mr. Donati along? That's hospitality, Johnny.
Rather a good joke on my aunts, Doctor. Them living in a house with a body buried in their cellar.
How do we bring him in, Johnny?
Yes, we can't just walk him through the door. I know. We'll bring the car in between the house and the cemetery. Then after they've gone to bed, we'll bring Mr. Donati through the window.
Ah, bed. Just think, we got the bed tonight.
Careful, Doctor. Remember, you're operating on me tomorrow.
Don't worry, I fix you up beautiful.
And if you don't?
Your room's all ready, Jonathan.
Very good. Dr. Einstein and I are bringing the car behind the house.
Oh, it can stay where it is until morning.
I don't want to leave it on the street. That might perhaps be against the law.
Oh, Abby, what are we going to do?
Well, we're not going to let them stay in this house for more than one night. For one thing, what would the neighbors think? People coming into this place with one face and leaving with another?
What are we going to do about Mr. Hoskins?
Oh, Mr. Hoskins. We can't be very comfortable for him in there. He's been so patient, the poor dear. I think Teddy ought to get Mr. Hoskins downstairs right away.
Abby, I will not invite Jonathan to the services.
No, dear. We'll wait till they're asleep, and then we'll come down and hold the services.
General Goethals was very pleased. He said the canal was just the right size.
Teddy, there's been another yellow fever victim.
Dear me, that will come as quite a shock to the general.
And then we mustn't tell him about it, dear.
But it's his department.
It would only spoil his visit, Teddy.
I'm sorry, Aunt Abby. You'll have to be told. It's Army regulations, you know.
No, we must keep it a secret.
Oh, yes.
A state secret?
Yes, a state secret.
Promise?
You have the word of the President of the United States. Cross my heart and hope to die. And now, how are we going to keep it a secret?
Well, Teddy, you go back down to the cellar, and when I turn out the lights, when it's dark, you come up and take the poor gentleman down to the canal. Go along, Teddy.
And we'll come down later to hold the services.
You may announce the President will say a few words. Where is the poor devil?
Oh, in the window seat, dear.
Dear me, it seems to be spreading. We've never had yellow fever there before.
Martha, when Jonathan and Dr. Einstein come back, let's see whether we can't get them to go to bed immediately.
Oh, yes. Then they'd be asleep by the time we were dressed for the funeral. Oh, Abby, I haven't even seen Mr. yet.
Oh, my goodness, you're right. You were out. Well, you just come and see him now. He's really quite nice looking, considering he's a Methodist.
We're bringing the luggage through here.
Your room's all ready, Jonathan. You can go right up.
I'm afraid we don't keep Brooklyn hours. You two run along to bed.
You must be very tired, both of you. And Martha and I don't go to bed this early.
Well, you should. It's time I came home to take care of you.
Well, we weren't planning to go until...
Aunt Martha, did you hear me say go to bed? Take the bags upstairs. The instrument case can go to the laboratory in the morning. And now we're all going to bed.
I'll wait till you're up, and then I'll turn out the lights.
Another flight, Doctor. Run along, Aunt Martha. And now, Aunt Abby, turn out the lights.
I'll be right up.
Now, Aunt Abby. All right, you go around outside the house and hand him through.
Oh, Johnny, he's too heavy for me. You go outside and push, and I stay here and pull. And together we get them down to Panama.
Fine. I'll take a quick look around outside the house. When I tap on the glass, you open the window.
Who left this open? Oh, it's a Dummkopf. Oh, Johnny, is that you? Oh, okay. You got him. Elio. Okay. Bring him in through here. Okay. Oh, wait a minute, Johnny. I lost a leg somewhere. Okay, I got him. Oh! Shh! Oh. Sorry, Johnny. That was me. I slipped.
Quiet.
Well, his shoe came off. Okay, hold on. It's breaking up here. Okay, Johnny, I got him. Phew. Oh, there's someone at the door. You go quick. I manage here. Oh. Oh. You go in there. Oh. Oh, heavy. Oh.
Miss Abby! Miss Martha! Oh, dear. Miss Abby! Miss Martha! Who is it? Oh, Teddy, is that you? Who are you?
Who are you?
Oh, I'm Elaine Harper. I live next door.
Get the lights, Doctor.
Huh?
Rather an untimely moment for a social call, don't you think?
And I suppose you better explain what you're doing here.
We happen to live here.
You don't live here. I'm in this house every day, and I've never seen you before. Where's Miss Abby and Miss Martha? What have you done with them?
Perhaps we'd better introduce ourselves. This is Dr. Einstein.
Dr. Einstein.
A surgeon of great distinction. And something of a magician.
Oh, and I suppose that you're going to tell me that you're Boris Karloff.
I'm Jonathan Brewster!
Oh, you're Jonathan.
So you've heard of me.
Yes, just this afternoon for the first time.
And what did they say about me?
Only that there was another brother named Jonathan. That explains everything. I'll just be running along then. If you'll kindly unlock the door.
That explains everything. Just what did you mean by that? What are you doing coming here at this time of night?
I thought I saw someone prowling around the house.
Oh, you saw someone prowling about the house.
Yes, wasn't that you? Isn't that your car?
Oh, you saw someone at the car.
Yes.
What else did you see?
I don't know. I was on my way over. I wanted to tell Miss Abby and Miss Martha to call the police, but if that was you and that's your car, then I'll just be running along.
What was the man doing at the car?
I don't know. I was on my way over.
I think you're lying.
No!
Oh, Johnny, I think she tells the truth. We let her go now, yeah?
I think she's lying.
No.
I think she's dangerous.
No.
She shouldn't be let loose.
Take your hands off me!
And now, young lady.
It's going to be a private funeral.
Teddy, tell these men who I am!
That's my daughter Alice.
No, Teddy!
Now, Alice, don't be such a tomboy. Don't play rough with the gentleman.
Teddy!
Charge! Doctor, your handkerchief! Your handkerchief! Doctor, the cellar door! Doctor, the lights! Doctor! Doctor!
Down there! What's the matter? What are you doing here?
It's all right. We've got a prowler, a sneak thief. You two run along back to bed.
I'll call the police!
We've already called the police. We're handling this. Go back to bed. Did you hear me? Don't answer that!
Oh, why, it's Mortimer!
Mortimer, where have you been?
To the Barrymore Theater. And I should have known better. Good gracious, I'm still there!
It's your brother Jonathan, dear, and this is Dr. Einstein.
I know this isn't a nightmare, but what is it?
I've come home, Mortimer.
Who did you say that was?
It's your brother Jonathan. He's had his face changed. Dr. Einstein performed the operation.
Jonathan, you always were a horror, but you have to look like one.
Mortimer, do you remember the things I used to do to you? Do you remember the night you were tied to the bedpost? And the needles under your fingernails? I suggest you don't cause problems now.
Yes, I remember. I remember you as the most detestable, vicious, venomous form of animal life I ever knew.
Oh, the boys! Don't start quarreling the minute you've seen each other.
There isn't going to be a fight, Aunt Abby. Jonathan, you're not wanted here, so get out.
Dr. Einstein and I have been invited to stay.
Oh no, not in this house.
Just for tonight.
I don't want him anywhere near me.
But we promised they could stay here just for the night. And it wouldn't be very nice to go back on our word.
All right, tonight. But first thing in the morning, out. Where are they sleeping?
We put them in Jonathan's old room.
That's my old room. I'm moving into that room. I'm here to stay.
Oh, Mortimer, I'm so glad.
Oh, don't worry, Johnny. We sleep down here.
You bet you'll sleep down here.
You sleep on the window seat, and I'll sleep on the window seat too. You sleep on the couch.
The window seat? Well, let's not argue about it. The window seat is good enough for me tonight.
What is it? I don't know, dear.
I will sleep on the window seat.
Johnny, all this argument, it makes me think of Mr. Donati.
Donati! Well, Mortimer, there's no real need to inconvenience you. We'll sleep down here.
Jonathan, this sudden consideration for me is very unconvincing.
Come, Johnny. We get our things from the room, yeah?
Don't bother, Doctor.
You know, Doctor, I've completely lost track of Mr. Donati.
Who is this Mr. Donati?
Just a friend of ours Johnny's been looking for.
Oh, don't you let anybody else in this house.
Come, Johnny. While we pack, I tell you about him.
Mortimer, you don't have to sleep down here. I'll sleep with Martha and you can take my room.
No bother at all, Aunt Tabby. We'll be packed in a few minutes, and then Mortimer can have my room.
You'll be wasting your time, Jonathan. I told you I'm sleeping down here. Oh, hello, Elaine.
Mortimer!
What's the matter, dear?
I've almost been killed.
You've almost been... Abby, Martha!
It was Jonathan!
He mistook her for a sneak thief.
Oh, it was more than that. He's some kind of maniac. Mortimer, I'm afraid of him.
Oh, darling, you're trembling. Do you have any smelling salts?
Well, no, but would you like some hot tea or coffee?
Coffee. Make some for me, too. And some sandwiches. I haven't had anything to eat.
We'll make something for the both of you.
Oh, Martha, we can leave our hats downstairs in the kitchen.
You weren't going out anywhere, were you? Do you know what time it is?
It's late.
Why, it's after 12. 12! Oh, Elaine, you run along home now.
What? Why, Mortimer, you wanted us to make some sandwiches for you and Elaine. We won't be a minute.
Yes, remember? We were going to celebrate your engagement. Oh, that's what we'll do. I'll make us a nice supper, and we can have some of our homemade elderberry tea.
All right. No tea!
Mortimer, what's going on in this house?
What do you mean? What's going on in this house?
We were supposed to go to dinner in a theater. You called it off. You asked me to marry you. I said I would. Then not 5 minutes later, you're trying to chase me out of the house. Then, after your brother tries to strangle me, you're trying to chase me out of the house again. Listen, Mr. Brewster, before I go home, I want to know where I stand. Do you love me?
Elaine, I love you very much. In fact, I love you so much, I can't marry you.
Have you suddenly gone crazy?
I don't think so. But it's only a matter of time. You see, insanity runs in my family. It practically gallops. That's why I can't marry you, dear.
Oh, but you've got to have a better explanation than that.
No, dear. There's a strange taint in the Brewster blood. If you really knew my family, well, it's what you could expect if Edgar Allan Poe had written, "I remember Mama."
Now, just because Teddy thinks he's...
No, it goes way back. The first Brewster, the one who came over on the Mayflower, you see, in those times, the Indians used to scalp the settlers. He used to scalp the Indians.
Now, Mortimer, that's ancient history.
No, the whole family. Take my grandfather, for instance. He tried out his patent medicines on dead people. To be sure he wouldn't kill them.
Well, no, he wasn't so crazy. He made $1 million.
And then there's Jonathan. Oh, well, you yourself said he was a maniac. He tried to kill you.
Yes, but he's your brother, not you. I'm in love with you.
And then there's Teddy. Well, you know Teddy. He thinks he's Roosevelt.
Well, even Roosevelt thinks he's Roosevelt.
No, dear. No Brewster. No Brewster should marry. I realize now that if I had met my father in time, I would have stopped him.
Oh, now, all of this doesn't prove that you're crazy. What? Take your aunts, for instance. They're not crazy. They're the sanest, sweetest people I've ever met.
Well, even they have their peculiarities.
Yes, but... Oh, yes, but what wonderful peculiarities. Kindness, generosity, human sympathy.
There's another one!
Oh! There are plenty of others. You couldn't tell me a thing about your aunts.
No, I can't, dear. Elaine, you've got to go home now. Something very important has just come up.
Come up from where? We're here alone together.
Elaine, I know I'm acting irrationally, but just put it down to the fact that I'm a mad Brewster.
If you think you're going to get out of this by pretending you're insane, you're crazy! Maybe you're not going to marry me, but I'm going to marry you! I love you, you nitwit!
Well, if you love me, will you get out of here?
Will you at least take me home? I'm afraid.
Afraid? A little walk through the cemetery.
Mortimer?
Good night, dear. I'll call you up in a day or two. Aunt Abby and Martha, come in here.
We'll be in just a minute, dear.
Come in here now.
What do you want, Mortimer? Where's Elaine?
I thought you promised me you wouldn't let anyone in this house while I was gone.
Well, Jonathan just walked in.
I don't mean Jonathan.
And Dr. Einstein was with him.
I don't mean Dr. Einstein. Who is that in the window seat?
Mr. Hoskins, dear.
It is not Mr. Hoskins.
Who can that be?
Are you trying to tell me you've never seen this man before?
I certainly am. Why, this is a fine how-do-do. It's getting so that anyone thinks he can just walk into this house.
Aunt Abby, don't try to get out of this. That is another one of your gentlemen.
Mortimer, that man's an imposter. And if he thinks he came here to be buried in our cellar, he is mistaken.
Aunt Abby, you admitted to me that you put Mr. Hoskins in the window seat.
Yes, I did.
Well, this man could not have just gotten the idea from Mr. Hoskins. By the way, where is Mr. Hoskins?
Oh, he must be downstairs in Panama.
You buried him?
Oh, no, he's just waiting for the services. We haven't had a minute, what with Jonathan in the house.
Jonathan?
I've always wanted to hold a double funeral, but I will not read services over a complete stranger.
A stranger? Aunt Abby, how can I believe you? There are 12 men in the cellar, and you admit you poisoned them.
Yes, I did, but you don't think I'd stoop to telling a fib? Oh, Martha!
Mortimer, I'd like to have a word with you.
Word's about all you'll have time for, Jonathan, because I've decided that you and your doctor friend are going to get out of this house as quickly as possible.
I'm glad you recognize the fact that you and I cannot stay under the same roof, but you've arrived at the wrong solution. Now take your suitcase and get out.
Jonathan, you're beginning to bore me. You've played your one-night stand in Brooklyn. Now move on.
My dear Mortimer, just because you've graduated from the back fence to the typewriter, don't think you've grown up. Now I'm staying and you're leaving, and that's final.
If you think I can be frightened, Jonathan, if you think there's anything I fear...
Mortimer, I've led a strange life, but if there's one thing I've learned, it's to be afraid of nothing.
Martha, you just look and see what's in that window seat.
Now, Aunt Abby!
Jonathan, let Aunt Martha see what's in the window seat. Aunt Abby, I owe you an apology. I have some very good news for you. Jonathan is just leaving. He's taking Dr. Einstein and their cold companion with him. Jonathan, you're my brother. You're a Brewster. I'm giving you a chance to get away and take the evidence with you. You can't ask for more than that. All right, fine. I guess I'll just have to call the police then.
Don't reach for that telephone. Are you still giving me orders after seeing what happened to Mr. Donati?
Donati? I knew he was a foreigner.
Remember, what happened to Mr. Donati can happen to you too.
Oh, hello.
Oh. How are you, Officer O'Hara? What can we do for you?
Saw your lights on. Thought there might be sickness in the house. Oh, you've got company. I'm sorry I disturbed ya.
No! Come right in.
Yes,
come in.
come in.
Come right in, Officer O'Hara. This is our nephew, Mortimer.
Pleased to meet ya.
And another nephew, Jonathan.
Pleased to make your acquaintance. Well, it must be nice having your nephews visiting you. Are they gonna stay with you for a bit?
I'm staying. My brother Jonathan is just leaving.
Say, I've met you here before, haven't I?
I'm afraid not. Jonathan hasn't been home for years.
Your face looks familiar to me. Perhaps I've seen a picture of you somewhere.
I don't think so.
Jonathan, you'd better hurry. You're all packed anyway, aren't you?
Well, you'll be wanting to say your goodbyes, so I'll just be running along.
What's the rush? I'd like to have you stick around until my brother goes.
I just stopped in to make sure everything was all right.
But we're gonna have coffee in a minute. Won't you join us?
Oh, I forgot the coffee.
Well, I better make some more sandwiches. I ought to know your appetite by this time, Mr. O'Hara.
Don't bother. I'm due to ring in a few minutes.
Oh, but you can have a cup of coffee with us. My brother will be going soon.
Say, haven't I seen a photograph of your brother around here someplace?
I don't think so.
He certainly reminds me of somebody.
He looks like somebody you've probably seen in the movies.
Oh, I never go to the movies. I hate them. I prefer plays.
You do?
Yeah, my mother was an actress, a stage actress. Perhaps you've heard of her. Peaches Latour.
Sounds like a name I've seen on a program. What does she play?
Her big hit was Mutt and Jeff. Played it for 3 years. I was born on tour, 3rd season.
You were?
Yeah, Sioux City, Iowa. I was born in the dressing room at the end of the 2nd act, and Mother made the finale.
What a trooper. There must be a good story in your mother. You know, I write about the theater.
You do? Say, you're not Mortimer Brewster, the dramatic critic. Say, I'm glad to meet ya. You and me, we're in the same line of business.
We are?
Yeah, I'm a playwright. Oh, this being on the police force is just temporary.
How long have you been on the force?
12 years. I'm collecting material for my play.
Oh, I'll bet it's a honey.
Well, it ought to be, with all the drama I see being a cop. Mr. Brewster, you got no idea what goes on in Brooklyn.
I think I have.
Say, what time you got?
10 after 1.
Oh, no, I gotta ring in.
No, O'Hara, on that play of yours, you know, I might be able to help you.
You would? Say, it was fate my walking in here tonight. Look, I'll tell you the plot.
Jonathan, you're on your way, eh? Good. You haven't got much time, you know.
Everything's about ready. Oh, Jonathan, are you leaving? Goodbye. Goodbye, Dr. Einstein. Doesn't this case belong to you?
Yes, Jonathan, you can't leave without taking everything with you. Well, O'Hara, it was nice seeing you. We'll meet later and talk about your play.
I ain't leaving now, Mr. Brewster.
Why not?
You just promised to help me with my play, didn't you? You and me, we're gonna write my play together.
No, O'Hara. You see, I'm not a creative writer.
Oh, I'll do the creating. You just put words to it.
But O'Hara...
No, sir, Mr. Brewster. I ain't gonna leave this house until I tell you the plot.
Well, Mortimer, in that case, we'll just be running along.
No, Jonathan, don't try that. You're not leaving without taking everything with you. Well, O'Hara, my brother's just going, so you run along.
I've been waiting 12 years.
Oh, I'm sorry I was so long.
Don't bring that in here. Officer O'Hara, would you join us for a bite in the kitchen?
The kitchen? Jonathan's leaving. Oh, that's nice. Come along, Mr. O'Hara. Officer O'Hara, you don't mind eating in the kitchen, do you?
Where else would you eat?
Oh, well, Jonathan, it was nice to have seen you again.
Jonathan, I'm glad you came back to Brooklyn because it gives me a chance to throw you out again. And the first one out is your friend, Mr. Donati.
Look, Mr. Brewster, we can talk in here.
No, O'Hara, I'll be right in.
I might have known you'd grow up to write a play with a policeman.
Now you get going. All 3 of you.
Doctor, this affair between my brother and me has got to be settled.
Now, Johnny, your brother gives us an opportunity to escape. What more could you ask?
You don't understand, Doctor. This affair between my brother and me goes back many, many years.
Now, Johnny, let's get going.
We're not going. We're staying here tonight.
There's a cop in the kitchen and Mr. Donati in the window seat.
That's all he's got on us, Doctor. We'll take Mr. Donati down and dump him in the bay. That done, we're coming back here. And then if he tries to interfere...
Johnny!
Doctor! You know when I make up my mind.
Yeah, when you make up your mind, you lose your head. Brooklyn ain't a good place for you, Johnny.
Doctor!
Okay. We got to stick together, yeah? Someday we get stuck together.
If we're coming back, do we got to take them with us?
No, leave them here. Hide them in the cellar. Move fast. Donati can go out the same way he came in.
Hey, Johnny! Come quick! Down in the cellar!
What?
Remember that hole Teddy dug?
Yes?
Well, we got an ace in the hole.
Jonathan! Jonathan! Jonathan!
Yes, Mortimer.
Where have you two been? I thought I told you.
We're not leaving.
Oh, you're not? You think I'm not serious, eh? Do you want the police to know what's in the window seat?
We're staying here.
All right, fine. This gets me rid of you and Officer O'Hara at the same time. Officer O'Hara?
Mortimer, if you tell Officer O'Hara what's in the window seat, I'll tell him what's in the cellar.
The cellar?
There's an elderly gentleman down there who seems to be very dead.
What were you doing in the cellar?
What's he doing in the cellar?
No, thank you, ma'am. I've had plenty. They were fine.
Now what are you going to tell O'Hara?
Say, your aunts want to hear it too. Shall I get them in here?
No, O'Hara, you can't do that. You've got to ring in.
Oh, forget ringing in. Look, I'll get your aunts in and tell you the plot.
No, not in front of all these people. We'll get together alone someplace. Later.
Say, how about the back room at Kelly's?
Fine. You go ring in and I'll meet you at Kelly's.
Why don't you try the cellar?
That's all right with me. Is this the cellar?
No! You've got to go ring in on the way. I'll meet you at Kelly's.
All right, but it'll only take me a couple of minutes.
I'll ditch this guy and be back in 5 minutes. I expect to find you gone. No, wait for me.
Oh, we'll wait for him, Doctor. I've waited a great many years for a chance like this.
We got him right where we want him. Did he look guilty?
Take the bags back to the room, Doctor.
Have they gone? Oh, we thought we heard somebody leave.
Just Mortimer. He'll be back in a few minutes. Do you have something for us to eat in the kitchen? I think Dr. Einstein and I would enjoy a bite.
Oh, but you won't have time. Yes, if you're still here when Mortimer gets back, he won't like it.
Oh, he'll like it. He's gotta like it.
If you'll hurry along and get us something from the kitchen while we bury Mr. Donati in the cellar.
Oh, no, he can't stay here, Jonathan. You've got to take him with you.
There's a friend of Mortimer's downstairs waiting for him.
A friend of Mortimer's?
Yes, he and Mr. Donati will get along fine together. You see, they're both dead.
Oh, he must mean Mr. Hoskins.
Mr. Hoskins?
You know about what's down there?
Oh, yes, and he's no friend of Mortimer's. He's one of our gentlemen.
Your gentleman?
Why, yes. And we won't have any strangers buried in our cellar.
But Mr. Hoskins!
Mr. Hoskins is not a stranger.
Besides, there's no room for Mr. Donati. The cellar's crowded already.
Crowded? With what?
There are 12 graves down there now.
12 graves?
Yes, and that leaves very little room. And we're going to need it.
You mean you and Aunt Martha have murdered?
Murdered? Certainly not. It's one of our charities.
Why, what we've been doing is a mercy.
So you take your Mr. Donati out of here.
You mean you've done that? Here, in this house, and buried them down there?
Oh, Johnny, we've been chased all over the world, and they stay right here in Brooklyn and do just as good as you.
What?
You got 12, Johnny, and they got 12.
I've got 13.
No, 12 Johnny.
13! There's Mr. Donati, then the first one in London, the 2 in Johannesburg, the 1 in Sydney, the 1 in Melbourne, the 2 in San Francisco, the 1 in Phoenix, Arizona.
Phoenix?
The filling station! The 3 in Chicago and the 1 in South Bend. That makes 13.
But you can't count the one in South Bend. He died of pneumonia.
He wouldn't have got pneumonia if I hadn't shot him.
No, Johnny. He died of pneumonia. He don't count.
He counts with me. I say 13.
No, Johnny. You got 12, and they got 12. The old ladies are just as good as you.
Oh, they are? Well, that's easily taken care of. All I need is one more. That's it, just one more.
Well, here I am.
You stop doing that! This is our house and this is our cellar, and you can't do that!
Ladies, please go back upstairs where you belong.
Abby, Martha, go upstairs.
Oh, you'll have to stop doing what you're doing, because it will just have to be undone.
I tell you, we won't have it!
Oh, you'll find out. You'll find out whose house this is.
I'm warning you, you'd better stop. Oh, hasn't Mortimer come back yet?
No.
It's a terrible thing, bearing a good Methodist with a foreigner.
I won't have our cellar desecrated.
And we promised Mr. Hoskins a full Christian funeral. Where do you suppose Mortimer went?
Oh, I don't know. But he must be doing something. He said to Jonathan, "You just wait. I'll settle this."
Well, he can't settle anything while he's out of the house. That's all we want settled. What's going on down there?
All right, now where's Teddy?
Mortimer, where have you been?
I've been over to Dr. Gilchrist. I've got his signature on Teddy's commitment papers.
Mortimer, what's the matter with you?
Running around getting paper signs at a time like this?
Do you know what Jonathan is doing?
He's putting Mr. Hoskins and Mr. Donati in together.
Oh, he is he? Well, let him. Is Teddy in his room?
No, he won't be any help.
When Teddy signs these commitment papers, I can tackle Jonathan.
What have they got to do with it?
You just had to go and tell Jonathan about those 12 graves. If I can make Teddy responsible for those, I can protect you. Don't you see?
No, I don't see. And we pay taxes to have the police protect us.
I'll be back down in a minute.
Come along, Martha. We're going for the police.
All right. The police? You can't go for the police.
Well, why can't we?
Because if you tell them about Mr. Donati, they'd find Mr. Hoskins. And that just might make them curious. And then they'd find your other gentleman.
Mortimer, I think we know the police better than you do. I don't think they'd pry into our personal affairs if we asked them not to.
But if they found your 12 gentlemen, they'd have to report to headquarters.
Well, I'm not so sure. They'd have to make out a very long report. And if there's one thing a policeman hates to do, it's to write.
You can't depend on that. It might leak out. And you can't expect a judge and jury to understand.
Judge Coleman would, dear.
We know him very well.
He always comes to church to pray just before election.
And he said he's coming here to tea someday. He promised.
Oh, we really should speak to him again about that, Abby. His wife died a few years ago, and it's left him very lonely.
Come along, Martha.
You can't do this. I won't let you. You can't leave this house, and you can't have Judge Coleman to tea.
Mortimer, if you're not going to do anything about Mr. Donati, we are.
But I am going to do something. We might have to call the police in later, but if we do, I want to be ready for them.
You get Jonathan out of this house.
And Mr. Donati, too.
Will you please let me do this my own way? I've got to see Teddy.
If they're not out of this house by morning, we're going to call the police.
They'll be out, I promise you that. And for Pete's sake, will you please go to bed?
Well, that's a relief, Abby.
Yes, if Mortimer's doing something at last, then Jonathan's just going through a lot of unnecessary trouble.
We'd better tell him.
Jonathan, you might as well stop what you're doing.
It's all done. Did I hear Mortimer?
Well, it will have to be undone. You're going to be out of this house by morning.
Oh, we are? Well, in that case, you and Aunt Martha had better run along to bed and get a peaceful night's sleep.
Oh, yes. Come along, Abby. Oh, dear.
Good night, aunties.
Not good night, Jonathan. Goodbye. By the time we're up, you'll be out of this house. Mortimer's promised. And he has a way of doing it, too.
Then Mortimer is back.
Oh, yes. He's up here talking to Teddy.
Well, goodbye, Jonathan.
Goodbye, Jonathan.
Perhaps you'd better say goodbye to Mortimer.
Oh, you'll see, Mortimer.
Yes, I'll see Mortimer.
Phew. That's all fixed up. Smooth like a lake. Nobody would ever know they're there. That bed feels good already. 48 hours we didn't sleep. Come, Johnny, let's go up now, yeah?
Doctor, you're forgetting.
Was?
My brother Mortimer.
Oh, Johnny, we do that tomorrow, the next day.
No, tonight, now.
Oh, but Johnny, I'm sleepy. Tomorrow I got to operate.
Yes, doctor. Tomorrow you're going to operate. But tonight, we take care of Mortimer.
Come, Johnny, let's go up, yeah?
Doctor, look at me. You can see that it is going to be done, can't you?
Yes, I can see. I know that look.
It's a little late to dissolve our partnership, don't you think?
Okay, we do it. But the quick way, the quick twist like in London, yeah?
No, doctor. I think perhaps we should do something a little more special. I think perhaps the Melbourne method.
No, Johnny, not the Melbourne method. 2 hours, and after what? The man in London was just as dead as the man in Melbourne.
We had to work too fast in London. There was no aesthetic satisfaction in it. Now Melbourne, now there was something to be remembered.
Remember? I wish I didn't. Oh, Johnny, please, not Melbourne. For me, not Melbourne.
Where are your instruments, doctor?
I won't do it, Johnny.
Get your instruments.
No, Johnny.
Where are they? Yes, you hid them in the cellar. Where?
I won't tell you, Johnny.
I'll find them, doctor.
No! Don't do that, Mr. President.
But I can't sign any proclamation without consulting my cabinet first.
But this must be secret.
A secret proclamation? How unusual.
Russia mustn't know until it's signed.
Russia? Those devils? I'll sign it immediately. You have my word for it.
Let's go and sign it.
You wait here. If it's going to be a secret proclamation, it must be signed in secret.
At once, Mr. President.
I'll go put on my signing clothes.
You go now, yeah?
No, Doctor. I'm waiting for something. Something important.
Please, you go now.
Dr. Einstein, I have nothing against you personally. You seem to be a nice fellow. If you'll take my advice, you'll get out of this house and just as far away as possible. There's going to be trouble.
Trouble, yeah. You get away quick.
All right, fine. Don't say I didn't warn you.
I'm warning you. You go now.
Things are going to start popping around here any minute.
You don't understand. When Johnny gets in a bad mood like this, terrible things happen.
Jonathan doesn't worry me now.
Ah, Himmel! Don't those plays teach you anything?
About what?
At least people in those plays act like they got sense.
You think people in plays act intelligently? I wish you had to sit through some of the ones I've had to sit through. this little opus tonight, for instance. In this play, there's a man. He's supposed to be bright. He knows he's in a house full of murderers. He's even been warned to get out of the house. But does he go? No! He stays there! I ask you, is that what an intelligent person would do?
You're asking me?
He didn't even have enough sense to be scared, to be on guard. For instance, the murderer invites him to sit down.
You mean, won't you sit down?
Believe it or not, that one was in there too.
What happened next?
He sat down! Mind you, this fellow is supposed to be bright. So there he sat, all waiting to be trussed up. And what do they use to tie him with?
Was?
The curtain cord.
Oh, well, why not? After all, a very convenient idea.
Yeah, a little too convenient. When a playwright's gonna use some imagination? The curtain cord?
He didn't see him get it?
See him? He sat there with his back to him. That's the kind of stuff we have to suffer through night after night. And they say the critics are killing the theater? No, it's the playwrights that are killing the theater. So there he sat, the big dope, the fellow who is supposed to be bright, just waiting to be tied up and gagged.
You're right about that fellow. He wasn't very bright.
And now, Mortimer, we'll finish the story. Mortimer, I've been away for 20 years, but never, my dear brother, have you been out of my mind. In Melbourne one night, I dreamt of you. When we landed in San Francisco, I felt a strange satisfaction. Once again, I was in the same country as you. And now, Doctor, we go to work.
Just a minute, Johnny. I can't do this without my nerve pills. Oh.
Doctor, pull yourself together.
Oh. I can't do this on an empty stomach, Johnny. Himmel, when we walked in here this afternoon, there were tea and biscuits on the table. Himmel, where did they put them? Oh, look, Johnny. Johnny, wait. Oh, look. Oh, that's all there is. Just a couple drops. I split it with you.
Wait, Doctor. Where are your manners? Mortimer, I realize now that it was you who brought me back to Brooklyn. We drink to you, Doctor, to my dear dead brother.
That idiot! He goes next! That's all! He goes next!
Not Johnny, not Teddy! That's where I stop! Not Teddy!
We'll get to him later.
We don't get to him at all!
Now we've got to move fast.
Yeah, Johnny's a quick way.
Yes, the quick way.
Hey! The Colonel's gotta quit blowing that horn!
It's all right, officer. We're taking the bugle away from him.
We promised the neighbors he wouldn't do that no more.
It's not a problem, officer. Good night.
I better talk to myself. Where are the lights? Hey! You stood me up! I waited an hour at Kelly's for you. What happened to him?
He was telling us about a play he saw tonight. This is what happened to a character in the play.
Did they have that in the play you saw tonight? They practically stole that from the second act of my play. In the second act, just before... I'd better begin at the beginning. It opens in my mother's dressing room, where I was born. Only I ain't born yet. Huh? Oh, yeah. No. You've got to hear the plot. Well, there she is making up tea, when out of a clear sky the door opens and a man with a black mustache walks. There she is, lying unconscious on the floor. The Nazi is standing over her with a hatchet. I'm tied up in a chair, just like you are. The place is an inferno of flames. It's on fire. Great effect we got there. When all of a sudden, through the window, in comes Mayor LaGuardia. Hey, take it easy on those peanuts. Remember who paid for those?
Well, I'm listening, aren't I?
How do you like it so far?
Well, it put Johnny to sleep. Hey, Johnny. Want a snack?
Let him alone. If he ain't got no more interest than that, he don't get no peanuts. All right, it's 3 days later. I've been transferred and I'm under charges. That's because somebody stole my badge. All right, I'm walking my beat on Staten Island, 46th Precinct, when the guy I'm following, it turns out, is really following me. Don't let anybody in. There's a vacant house on the corner, see? I goes in. It's cops! I stands there in the dark. I sees the door handle turn.
Johnny, wake up! It's cops!
It's cops! I pulls my gun. I braces myself against the wall and I says, come in. Hello, boys.
What's going on here?
Hey, Pat, what do you know? This is Mortimer Brewster. He's gonna write my play with me. I'm just telling him the plot.
Did you have to tie him up to make him listen?
Joe, you'd better go report into the station. The whole force is out looking for you.
Did they send you boys here for me?
Actually, we didn't even know you was here.
We came to warn the old ladies that they're in hot water. The colonel blew the bugle again in the middle of the night.
From the way the neighbors have been calling in about it, you'd think the Germans have dropped a bomb on Flatbush Avenue.
The lieutenant is on the warpath. He says the colonel's gotta be put away someplace.
Yes.
Look, Mr. Brewster, I gotta go, so we'll just run through the third act quick.
You? Get away from me.
Say, do you even know what time it is? It's 8 o'clock in the morning.
It is. Looks like them first two acts run a little long, Mr. Brewster, but I can't think of anything we can leave out.
You can leave it all out.
Hey, who's this guy?
That's my brother.
Oh, the one that ran away? Huh. So he came back.
Yes, he came back.
Hello, this is Brophy. Get me Matt. Oh, I better let them know that I found you, Joe.
Oh, yeah.
Matt? Yep, you can go ahead and tell the lieutenant that he can call off the big manhunt. That's right, we got it. In the Brewster home. Do you want us to bring him in? No, all right. We will hold him right here. The lieutenant is on his way over.
So I've been turned in, eh? Well, you've got me. I suppose you and my stool pigeon brother will split the reward.
Reward?
Now I'll do some turning in. You think my aunts are sweet, charming old ladies? Well, there's 13 bodies buried in their cellar. Steady! Steady!
What are you talking about?
You better be careful what you say about your aunts. They happen to be friends of ours.
There's 13 bodies buried in their cellar. Come, I'll show you. I'll prove to you. Come down in the cellar with me.
Oh, wait a minute.
Come down in the cellar with me. There's 13 bodies. I'll show you. I'll prove it to you. Come down.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, you don't want to see what's down in the cellar.
Go on down in the cellar with him, Abe.
Yeah. I don't think I want to be down in the cellar with him. I mean, look at that mug. The guy looks like Boris Karloff.
Will you hit what?
What are you doing?
Come on, me back, Robin! Well, how about that?
Man,
What are you men doing here? I told you I was gonna handle this.
Well, sir, we kind of...
What happened? Did he put up a fight?
Oh, this ain't the fellow that blows the bugle. This is his brother. He tried to kill Klein.
All I said was he looked like Boris Karloff.
We'll turn him over.
You know, we kind of think that he's wanted somewhere.
Oh, you kinda think he's wanted somewhere?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man, if you boys don't read the circulars we put up in the station, the least you could do is read True Detective. Of course he's wanted in Indiana. Escaped from the prison for the criminal insane. He's a lifer. Oh, for Pete's sake, that's even how he was described. He looked like Carlos.
Was there a reward mentioned?
Yeah, and I'm claiming it.
He was trying to get us to go down in the cellar with him.
Yeah, he said there were 13 bodies buried down there.
13 bodies buried in the cellar, huh? And that didn't tip you off he came out of a nut house?
I thought all along he talked kind of crazy.
Hey, look at this. It's Shakespeare. Hey, tell me, where you been all night? You needn't actually bother telling me.
I've been right here, sir, writing a play with Mortimer Brewster.
Oh, yeah. Well, guess what? You're gonna have plenty of time to write that play now.
Yeah.
You're suspended.
What?
Beat it.
Say, can I come over sometime and use the station typewriter?
No! Get out! Oh. Take that guy into the kitchen, bring him to, and see what you can find out about his accomplice. The guy that helped him escape?
Oh!
He's wanted too. Oh. No wonder Brooklyn's in the shape it's in. With the police force full of flatheads like you. Huh. Fall into that kind of a story. 13 bodies buried in the cellar.
But there are 13 bodies buried in the cellar.
Who are you?
I'm President Roosevelt.
Who is this?
This is the fellow that blows the bugle.
Good morning, Colonel.
Well, Colonel, you've blown your last bugle.
Dear me, another yellow fever victim.
What?
No,
All the bodies in the cellar are yellow fever victims.
no, Colonel, this is a spy that we caught in the White House.
Could you two take that guy out of here, please? Bring him to and question him.
If there's any questioning of spies, that's my department.
No, you stay out of there.
You're forgetting. As President of the United States, I am also the head of Secret Service.
Captain, I'm Mortimer Brewster.
Are you sure?
I'd like to talk to you about my brother Teddy, the one who blew the bugle last night.
Look, Mr. Brewster, we ain't got to talk about that. He's got to be put away.
Oh, I quite agree with you. In fact, it's all been arranged for. I've been over to Dr. Gilchrist last night, and I've got his signature on Teddy's commitment papers. Teddy has just signed them himself, you see? And I've signed them as next of kin.
Oh, well, where's he going?
Happydale.
Oh. Well, I don't care where he goes, as long as he goes.
Oh, he's going all right. But I want you to understand that everything that's happened around here, Teddy is responsible for. Now, those 13 bodies in the cellar, though.
Yeah, sure. Right, those 13 bodies buried in the cellar. You know, it ain't bad enough that the neighbors are all afraid of him, right? And he's disturbing the peace with that bugle. Oh, can you imagine what would happen if that cockeyed story about 13 bodies buried in the cellar got around? Huh. And now he's starting a yellow fever scare. Huh. Cute, ain't it?
13 bodies. You don't think anyone would believe that story?
You can't be sure. Some people are just dumb enough. Huh. You don't know what to believe sometimes. About a year ago, this crazy guy over in Greenpoint started a murder rumor. And I had to dig up a half-acre lot just to... Huh.
Oh, hello, Elaine.
Good morning, Mortimer. This is Mr. Witherspoon. He's come to meet Teddy.
To meet Teddy?
Mr. Witherspoon is the superintendent of Happydale.
Oh, yes, come right in. This is Captain...
Lieutenant Rooney. I'm glad to see you here, Super, because he's going along with you today.
Today, I had no idea.
Not today.
Elaine, I've got a lot of business to attend to, so you run along home.
You're nuts!
I had no idea it was so immediate.
Oh, yeah, the paperwork? It's all signed. He's going today.
It's insubordination! You'll find out I'm no mollycoddle! When the President of the United States is treated this way, what's this country coming to?
There's your man, Super.
Just a minute. Mr. President, I have some very good news for you. Your term of office is over.
Is this March 4th?
Practically.
Well, let's see. Ooh, now I go on my hunting trip to Africa. Well, I must get started immediately. Is he trying to move into the White House before I've gone?
Who, Teddy?
Taft!
That isn't Taft, Teddy. This is Mr. Witherspoon. He's going to be your guide in Africa.
Delighted! Bully, bully! Wait right here. I'll go up and get my equipment. When the safari comes, tell them to wait. Goodbye, Aunt Abby. Goodbye, Aunt Martha. I'm going to Africa. Isn't it wonderful? Charge!
Oh, good morning, Mortimer.
Good morning, darlings.
Oh, good morning, Elaine. Well, we have visitors.
Aunties, this is Lieutenant Rooney.
Well, Lieutenant, you don't look like the fuss budget the policemen say you are.
Why the lieutenant is here? You know Teddy blew his bugle again last night.
Oh, yes. We were meaning to speak to him about that.
I'm afraid it's a little more serious than that, Miss Brewster.
And this is Mr. Witherspoon. He's the superintendent of Happydale.
How do you do?
Oh, you've come to meet Teddy?
No, he's come to take him.
Aunties, the police want Teddy to go there today.
Oh, no!
Not as long as we're alive!
No, the paperwork's all accounted for. He's signed up and he's going along with the superintendent.
We won't permit it. Well, we promised to take the bugle away from him.
We won't be separated from Teddy!
Now, I know how you feel, ladies, but the law's the law. He's committed himself and he's going.
Well, if he's going, we're going too.
Yes. You'll have to take us with him.
Well, why not?
Well, it's sweet of them to want to, but I'm afraid it's impossible. You see, we can't take sane people at Happydale.
Mr. Witherspoon. If you'll allow us to live with Teddy, we'll see that Happydale is in our will, and for a very generous amount.
The Lord knows we could use the money, but I'm afraid that...
Well, ladies, let's be sensible about this. For instance, here I am, wasting my morning when I've got serious work to do. There are still murders to be solved in Brooklyn.
Yes. Oh, are there?
Yeah. You know, it ain't bad enough that your nephew is just disturbing the peace with that bugle, and the neighbors are all disturbed. You know, matters would just get worse. Sooner or later, we'd be put to the trouble of digging up your cellar.
Our cellar?
Yeah, your nephew's telling around that there are 13 bodies buried in the cellar.
Oh, there are 13 bodies in the cellar.
Why, if that's why you think Teddy has to go away, well, you just come right down and we'll prove it to you.
But there is one. Mr. Donati, who does not belong there and is going to have to leave. The other 12 are our gentlemen.
I don't think the lieutenant wants to go to the cellar. He was just telling me that last year he had to dig up a half-acre lot. Weren't you, Lieutenant?
Oh, you won't have to dig here. The graves are unmarked. We put flowers on them every Sunday.
Flowers, sure. Sure. Hey, Superintendent, you sure you can't make room for these ladies?
Well,
Come along and see the graves.
No, I'll take your word for it, lady. I'm a busy man. How about it, Super?
They'd have to be committed.
Well, Teddy committed himself. Can't they do that? Can't they sign the papers?
Certainly.
Well, if we can go with Teddy, we'll sign the papers. Where are they?
Yes, where are they?
Follow me.
Thank you, dear.
He's coming around, Lieutenant.
Oh, good morning, Mr. Klein.
Oh, good morning, Mr. Klein. Are you here too?
Yeah, me and Brophy actually have your other nephew out in the kitchen.
Sign him up, Superintendent. I want this cleaned up as soon as possible. 13 bodies.
If you'll sign right here.
And then you here, Aunt Abby.
I'm really very excited about going. The neighborhood here has changed so.
Just think, Abby. A front lawn again.
Oh, we're forgetting something.
What?
Well, we're going to need the signature of a physician.
Oh, Dr. Einstein! Won't you join us? At one time last night, I thought the doctor was going to operate on me. Just sign right here.
Oh, were you leaving, Doctor?
Yes, I think so.
But weren't you going to wait for Jonathan?
I don't think we're going the same place.
Oh, hello, Elaine. Glad to see you. Stick around.
Oh, don't worry, I'm going to.
Hey, Mac? Yeah, it's Rooney. We picked up that guy that's wanted in Indiana. There should be a description of his accomplice there on the desk. Yeah, just read it to me. Uh-huh. Okay. Mid-50s, about 5'8". Okay, about 140 pounds. Talks with a German accent and poses as a doctor. Okay. Thanks, Mac. I'll keep my eyes open.
It's all taken care of, Lieutenant. The doctor here has just completed the signatures.
Thanks, Doc. You're really doing Brooklyn a real service.
If you don't mind, I think I will be leaving now.
Goodbye, Dr. Einstein.
Mr. Brewster, you sign now as next of kin.
Martha?
Right here?
Oh, yes, that's fine.
All right. Everything complete, everything legal.
Oh, yes.
Aunties, now you're safe.
When do you think that you'll be ready to start?
Mr. Witherspoon, why don't you go upstairs and tell Teddy what he can take along?
Upstairs.
I'll show you.
No, Mortimer. We want to talk to you. Just upstairs and turn left. Well, Mortimer, now that we're moving, this house is really yours. Oh, yes, Mortimer, we want you to live here.
No, I couldn't do that. You see, this house is too full of memories.
Well, you and Elaine will need a house for when you're married.
Darling, that's very indefinite.
Oh, it's nothing of the kind. We're going to be married right away.
We're really very quite worried about something, Mortimer.
Oh, don't worry. I'm sure you're going to love it at Happy Dale.
Oh, yes, we're very excited about the whole thing, but, well, that's just it. We don't want anything to go wrong.
Will they investigate those signatures?
I don't think they're going to look up Dr. Einstein.
It's not Dr. Einstein's signature, dear. It's yours.
You see, you signed as next of kin.
Yes, of course.
Well, we really didn't want to tell you, Mortimer, but now you're a man, and Elaine should know, too. You see, you're not really a Brewster.
Your mother came to us as a cook, and you were born 3 months afterward. And she was such a sweet woman and such a good cook, and we didn't want to lose her, so Brother married her.
You mean I'm not really a Brewster?
Now, don't feel badly about it, Mortimer.
And you won't let it make any difference, Elaine?
Oh, no.
Elaine, do you hear? Do you understand?
Yes.
I'm not really a Brewster! I'm not really a Brewster!
Well, I better get things started on breakfast.
Oh, don't bother. Mortimer and I are going out for breakfast.
Yes, I need some coffee. I've had quite a night.
Just a minute, Mr. Witherspoon. Take this with you.
Won't be needing the wagon. My car's out front.
You leaving now, Jonathan?
Yeah, he's going to Indiana. There's some people there that want to take care of him the rest of his life.
Oh, we're glad that you have some place to go, Jonathan.
Goodbye, Aunt Abby. Goodbye, Aunt Martha.
And we are leaving too. We're going to Happy Dale.
Then I suppose this house is seeing the last of the Brewsters.
Not unless Mortimer comes to live here.
I have a suggestion. Why don't you turn this property over to the church?
We hadn't thought of that.
After all, it really should be part of the cemetery. Well, I won't be able to better my record, but neither will you. At least I have that satisfaction. The score stands even. 12-12.
Get him out. Come on.
Oh, Jonathan always was a mean boy. He could never stand to let anyone get ahead of him.
I wish we could show him he isn't so smart. Mr. Witherspoon, where are our manners? Won't you join us down here for a bit of breakfast?
There's no time for breakfast, but thank you just the same.
Well, why don't you make yourself comfortable while we wait for Teddy?
Mr. Witherspoon, does your family live with you at Happydale?
I have no family.
Oh? Well, I suppose you consider everyone at Happydale your family.
I'm afraid you don't understand. As head of the institution, I have to remain quite aloof.
That must make it very lonely for you.
It does. But my duty is my duty.
Well, Martha, if Mr. Witherspoon can't join us for a bit of breakfast, the least we can do is offer him a glass of our elderberry tea.
Elderberry tea?
We make it ourselves.
Oh, yes, of course. At Happydale, our relationship will be more formal. But here, you don't hear much of elderberry tea these days. I thought I'd had my last glass of it.
Oh no. Here it is.
Every one of you guys for coming to our performance tonight. We'll be up here in front in a few minutes to greet you. Good night.